How do you pronounce?
Oh, there's the You Are Live button. Fantastic. See, it just drops. You never know. You never know when it's going to happen. But hopefully everybody is nicely refueled after the coffee break. So we'll have plenty of energy to listen to our next panel, which is a very full one, very good fun. And we're going to hear about From Impressions to Impact, user acquisition in a competitive market. Another juicy topic today. So I am going to hand over to the lovely Marie, who is going to do the I might be moderating the whole day, but Marie is going to do this panel for us. So over to you and these lovely people.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Marie Mejerwall. I've been in games for about 18 years now in different ways, shapes, and forms. Mostly on the AAA action RPG side as a game designer and game developer. But today I run my own studio, and my own boutique advisory where I help different studios with their stuff. And I do a lot of stage hosting, and that is why I have the opportunity to meet with these excellent panelists today who are going to navigate us through this topic. So the topic was already introduced, like the user acquisition is competitive landscape. But I wanted to just start introducing the topic a little bit by saying that the landscape is changing rapidly, specifically thanks to all the privacy legislation laws that are coming into cracking down, and also Apple are changing stuff about their app store. So there's also more competition than ever in the mobile space with all the data and algorithms. Everyone is getting smarter, but it's also trickier than ever to navigate this with all these new laws, to say. Thankfully, we have an expert panel here to help us and help all of you out there who want to find the edge for yourself in your business. I'm going to start by asking the panelists, please introduce yourselves a little bit more, your name, your title, what you do, what your company does, and then also answer this first warm-up question. Who are you taking notes for? Which other company are you learning for to boost your user acquisition? Anyone want to start?
Sure, I can start. Yes, I'm CK. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Kooapps. We're a hyper-casual mobile gaming studio. Our largest title is a game called Snake.io. And yeah, the entire team is excited. We're adding more features in. Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to take after CK. First of all, congratulations on your title with Snake. I'm a big fan myself. I was looking at it and I was like, wow, cool. This is something that I used to like back on the days, and it's coming in a new way. Anyway, my name is Valentina. I'm the lead of sales of Gamelight. Gamelight is the largest rewarded marketing platform on the market right now, powered by UA. Basically, what we do, we are the publisher of ourselves. We have apps where we recommend games to our vast audience. And like this, we're on the user acquisition side, what we are doing, we are promoting games of our clients, which are getting installs. That's our core business. I've been in the industry myself for around 10 years, always in digital mobile advertising. And yeah, nice to meet you all. Nice to meet my panel friends. So I will give a ball to Clary.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm Clary, and I am the head of user acquisition and monetization at Elia Games, which is a small French studio. We have a portfolio of hyper-casual games, leaning more on the casual side with some word games, and we're also making some match games. And that's pretty much the situation right now. And then compared to all the experts right here, I'm rather young. I think I started working in this industry only 2.5 years ago, but it's my honor to be here today to share and also to learn from all of you. Thank you. I'm gonna give my speech to Alexandre.
Yeah, thank you so much, Clary. So first of all, my name is Alexander. You can call me Alex. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Scrambly. And Scrambly essentially is an app publisher. What we do is we create a portfolio of apps that provide a rewarded discovery content selection for users. So what we do is we put together apps and we put together users, and we actually let them find the best apps and games based on their preferences. And on the other side, we are a UA provider, so very similar to Gamelight, but with our own approach, with our own vision. So yeah, thanks a lot for having me, and lovely to meet you all.
Okay, I'm catching the ball.
I'm gonna give it to Olga. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I already did. My name is Olga. I am business lead at AdLight. Actually, I started my career path in gaming. We've been a few years apart, but I'm finally to be back and to continue introducing AI in user acquisition, because AdLight is the creative analytics tool that boosts the performance of creative ads using ML and technologies. So happy to be here with all of you. And Marie, back to you.
You're mute, by the way.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry. I was gonna catch the ball, but it's like my camera's like mirrored, so I try to grab it from the wrong side. Thank you. I love that concept, just throwing the ball to people. The first topic we're going to talk about in this panel is the trends and insights. So I'm gonna go straight into the cookie, or how you would say it, and just ask straight out the panel, which user acquisition channels are the most promising for 2024?
Oh.
I'm in the market to discover what other people are using.
Someone's gonna talk here, I know you all want to hear from each other, keep your secret, but
I think I'm just gonna go. So
Yeah.
to let it out a little bit. So since we are a UA provider, but at the same time we have a selection of our own apps, and we do focus a lot on driving user acquisition for our own apps. And the biggest challenge is that we have a lot of competitors who boost the cost, who boost the CPC, and with the changes of economy, with the changes of privacy, all the new laws and basically rules from Google, from Meta, from everywhere, we've been actually looking for alternative ways of driving user acquisition on top of the standard channels. So by standard channels, I mean Meta, Google, AppLovin, ironSource, Moloka, etc. So what we've been actually kind of successful with has been also rewarded. So similar to what we're doing, but here we need to understand if the audience aligns, and at the same time we look into alternative user acquisition platforms such as pre-installs, so whatever works for us, but we don't focus on a massive scale with single channels, because it always creates an additional challenges in terms of pricing, in terms of CPI, CPCs, etc. So what we think is best right now is to focus on small platforms, test all of them, and make sure that the audience aligns eventually. And I'm talking about short funnel performance, long funnel performance. And so channels that have been working great for us has been Fluent, Fiber, Tapjoy, Facebook, Google has been also great, but still there's been challenges. But yeah, everybody has those. But I think to sum up, alternative platforms that might not provide as much volume as the biggest ones, but just if you put them all together, eventually they might be actually meeting your monthly budget, monthly performance expectations. So
it's for me, I will just back up Alex about this. It's for us, it's the same thing. We have our apps and we need to have different users. We are not doing I would say very specific targeting, because for us, it's we just need to have audience, which will be interested in different games. So it's a very kind of very broad kind of targeting that we can do. We're using as well traditional channels. We are using as well very small channels, which are known. We're splitting our budget in order to test what works best for us, where we can get the best users. And after that, we reevaluate and we see what works best, and we'll be investing more in this. But it will be very interesting to hear as well from our UA experts who are working in games, what kind of channels they are using, like Clary and CK. That will be great to get your point on this.
Yeah, sure. I can go next. Yeah, so same thing for us. Like, we don't have a lot of targeting. Most of our campaigns are CPI campaigns, and I'd say like 99% of our traffic is CPI campaigns. Our largest channels are the usual suspects, like Google is largest for us on Android, and then on iOS the largest for us is actually Apple search ads. And so yeah, we're glad that our largest channels are the platform owners. And then, yeah, I think those are most promising. We do test like smaller channels, but like sometimes there's like a quality issue in terms of the users that you're getting. So most of our traffic is still from our the large brands and that everybody knows. So like AppLovin, Iron Source, Unity. In terms of like fraud detection, I think a lot of their processes are more automated there. I think a channel that we're really excited about is always TikTok. I think there it's always very trendy, and so it feels like there's always a chance for campaigns to do really well, and they do well and not sort of seasonally. I think Q4 didn't do that well, but Q1 now it's doing amazing. So we scaled like 3 or 4x like in the last month. Whereas other channels are a bit more less trendy. And so yeah, so TikTok's always sort of feels like a new channel because every season or every quarter we have to like sort of reinvent all our campaigns on there.
Yeah.
I actually have a question about TikTok. So that's very interesting because we are getting to look into it. And what my concern is that some companies with IP titles might be actually kind of staying away from TikTok because it has a younger generation. And some, let's say, social casino. My social casino might not be the right example because I'm not sure if TikTok allows it. But let's say some merch titles or match 3 titles, they might be stay away from TikTok just for a reason that it has younger generation audiences, and the vast majority of their big paying audiences, they actually kind of around 3 years old plus, etc., more like past 25, 30 years old. So I was just wondering how like eventual defined metrics look for you on TikTok, since it doesn't have the same audience compared to other biggest platforms.
Yeah, for us, like most of our revenue is ad revenue. So in-app purchase, I'm not quite sure. Like maybe you're right, there is like a spending sort of gap, but most of our revenue is ads. In terms of younger wise, like our biggest demographic is probably like teenagers and then young 20s, so like 13 to
That's your audience.
25. 13 to 25 is going to be like our biggest audience, and then after that is 25, 34, then 34, 44, and then 44 plus. So yeah, I think it depends on game, but I think a lot of hyper casual also have similar sort of teenager, young adults sort of audience. So definitely very different from casino IAP audience. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
So I said I can definitely attest to that because we have like a portfolio of different games, and we notice like TikTok is really a very specific network. So like hyper casual games usually works extremely well on TikTok, even though it's like super creative hungry. But like some other more mature, deeper games, sometimes it's just like complete flop on TikTok. You can launch 3 campaigns and nothing works. And so that's the magic of TikTok, I would say.
All right, next question then. When you look at everyone else's, you're glancing at everyone else's campaigns. How do you evaluate them? How do you, without having access to their data and what their success rates and click rates, etc. are? How can you tell if this is something like you should copy? How do you estimate that?
It's like from my side, it will be very easy because I'm actually searching for the top grossing apps myself. I'm very active. Like, I believe that this question is for very wrong audience here because a lot of people, we are in the industry. So we are looking like what's going on. And if you don't have the data, you're using Sensor Tower to see who is actually grossing, what's going on right now. And after that, you are very attentive to your phone, like whatever you are seeing on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. Oh God, they're doing that. Oh, there is a person there on their on in-app advertisement. Okay, maybe we should do that as well. So it's like it's kind of like you are just being inspired, but you don't have the data, don't have an internal data. You are just kind of like picking it up, like little things which are coming together. But yeah.
Definitely. Like, for example, because I work inside, so sometimes I actually have to go and play the games. And then I noticed that if you match what I see on the phone versus the data on Sensor Tower, chances are the ads that you see are the best ones on Sensor Tower. So that's like kind of how we keep an eye on what's going on as well, especially when I go and play like competitor games.
Clary, I'm the same. I'm here with you. I'm playing the game of every our customer or the upcoming customer. And then also I'm often stalked by the ad creatives because I often research them. So I think I played the best and the worst of the industry. And I think that's a very good point because I think in case in many people from this panel, it's not that you try to find, the insights about competitors, but that you're in the environment where there are less known insightful information about competitors and actually the information as it is. So I would say that in our case, we do have a lot of insights depending on the tool you're using, whether it's Sensor Tower, Data AI, AppMagic, or any other platform. The depths of the insights would be different. So some platforms have, for example, more creative, some platforms have more of the funnel data. And I think the key here is to use as many sources as possible, but then also make a step back from monitoring, for example, specific competitors, specific company and their games, and have a look at the industry as a whole. For example, in my case, it's very insightful to see what are the new games outside of specific niche and category are appearing, because sometimes, they're in between two different categories, and then you can see what are the new trends that are catching on. And then I would totally agree that following the general trends and insights, just watching the specific content on TikTok that also throws a lot of ideas, because you can usually very often and quickly see how the companies are embedding them, and then it's easier to find the correct tone of voice for your brand, and those are the trends that are actually matching with it.
Yeah, for us, we use Sensor Tower as well.
Oh, please go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Sorry,
so we use.
but please go on.
Yeah, we use Sensor Tower as well. It's mostly for like making creatives. Maybe our team will have to come up with 50 creatives, and then after that, they're kind of like in a writer's block and out of ideas, and then they need to browse around and go, okay, what are other ideas? But generally, like what we've seen is that like every game is so different that like even in our games, like let's say what game A and game B, and game A has like double the IPM of game B. If game B were to run like a similar ad more akin to what game A is running, you would think that like, oh, your IPM would improve because on that game it's way higher. So we've tried things like that actually, but it like doesn't work. It's kind of strange. And so so in terms of like sort of competitor videos and all of that, using that as sort of inspiration to get ideas when you're out of ideas, and after 50 or 100 videos, like that's fine. But in terms of like copying it, like even when we copy our own videos and we know exactly why each of them work, like it like doesn't work. And so it's something that everybody does, but I'm not sure it's like that sort of make or break in terms of UA campaigns.
Yeah, it's okay. I just want to jump in quickly here. So Marie has mentioned the aspect of not having enough data. And I think at some point you think that the data is not enough to make a decision on evaluation. You definitely need to dive deeper. And I think the benefit of all it is that now we have many instruments that allow us to use AI to do the analytics that was not possible before, of the scope of the volume of information, and addressing specifically the question of creatives. I've been in these conversations many times when we just used to look at the creatives, and it seems that everything that we can see with our eye actually the depths of the insights. But the truth is that using AI technology, for example, at AdLight, we can do the decomposition of the creatives. So even at the stage when you don't have a full funnel data, of course we don't, we just have the general knowledge about the CTRs, about installs, sometimes about impressions, but not about ad spend, for example. So in this case, we can dive through the decomposition, find all of the elements, work with them in Excel sheets or different format, but then also we can embed the technologies not only to find those small elements, but also to score them, evaluate, and then help the new tech innovations to do the job for us. So I would just want to emphasize one more time, if it seems that the information is not enough, my question would be, what are the next steps, how deeper we can dive in terms of analytics and the review to make sure we find all possible aspects of the data that we're data or materials that we are owning at the moment.
I don't want to catch that ball. I mean, that is the question here. How do you know if you're looking at something, you can be inspired creatively, but how do you know that that is actually working out for them, and that you're actually taking good advice, so to say? Do you have any? Olga mentioned, Excel and putting some estimations on there. Is there anyone else who's doing analysis to this degree?
Well, I think we see the spend. We see at least some metrics about at creatives, right? So if we see a lot of impressions, a lot of installs, we would assume that our competitor will spend much more money just because it works, not because it's not working. So I think there are definitely those criteria to identify the success, and that's basically the fact that the companies are investing more. And I think that both relates to creatives, other instruments that the competitors are using, but also channels. So of course at some stage the investment into a new channel might not be very effective, for example when we talk about the local platforms. But then if you see that the competitor is investing for 3, 6, 9 months, it means you need to get a try, and with some time you will boost your performance there as well.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. And that is a little bit talking about tricks and tools and different things that you can have at your disposal to help you when you're making these campaigns. And one question here, when is it worth, putting up building your own user acquisition framework, or when is it better to outsource to an expert, or use some automation tool, or just hire, taking an external expert consultant who helps you to build up your own, if you're, especially if you're a small firm, you're a small studio, you're just starting out, where would you start? What would be your advice from the panel?
I
think I'm gonna get this one.
Sure.
Yeah, you can go. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have some interesting things to share about that, because we are definitely very dedicated in developing our own tools in-house, which I realize is not the situation with everybody. So Alexandra, I will let you speak about it, and then we can probably have a nice little discussion afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, whenever you get started, at the end of the day, it's not about building something incredibly robust or building your internal tools, because for instance, you have, just some insignificant figures to spend on your user acquisition, and you need to make it work right. You need to get ROAS. It's whether it's short funnel ROAS or deep funnel ROAS, you want to just increase your audiences or your exposure in the market. But what we had to focus on and what we had to understand first before doing UA, I think it's going to be not I think it goes without saying, we need to understand our product first, so deeply, and we need to understand the touch points within the user funnel that would allow us to get a prediction algorithm, for instance, that would actually help us increase the CPIs. And the first thing that we need to understand is the user funnel. What would be the best performing audiences? For instance, that I'm gonna make a specific example. If we see that this particular audience makes their first cash out of rewards from our app with the cost per action of let's say $10, we understand that predictably speaking, this user is going to become ROAS positive, within their lifetime, let's say 6, 7, 8 months, whatever this is for your product. So what first of all we had to do is we had to understand our user funnel, and we had to create like a automation internally in order to understand better our user behavior. And based on that, we could bid higher, because we understand that those users are going to become ROAS positive down funnel. So I think it's like whenever you get started, you need to understand your product like very deeply. And based on that, you can make your decisions. You can look at your campaigns totally different. And you don't need to use like these super expensive tools to understand, like, because you're not spending millions, you just need to understand how to spend your, let's say, 100K to 100K right. Because like initially what matters is how much you're going to get out of it if your company is bootstrapped, if you don't like go after VCs.
And Alexander, when you understand your user, like how do you target these users in UA campaigns?
So there's going to be a set of short milestones, short touch points in their user funnel, like short KPIs. Let's say that we're going to be looking at ROAS day 2, day 3, day 7, day 30, day 45. At the same time, we're going to be looking at how users that we buy from a single channel perform in the games that we're promoting within the context of our own application. We're going to be looking at how much purchases they make and how well they engage with our audience. So even initially, when we start a new channel, there's going to be a set of short funnel touch points that we can assess to understand whether this channel is going to, it's not like it's going to work out, but we're going to have an idea that there is a big chance that this channel is going to work out by looking at those short funnel touch points, short funnel metrics. So you're going to have to build out a set of short funnel indicators and deep funnel indicators, of course. But by this point, you have spent a lot already. You need to understand it, like you need to figure this out a little earlier.
Okay, very interesting. Like it seems that your apps are definitely a bit deeper than the games that we're working with, because usually we don't actually look at much deep funnel metrics. Like it's rather short funnel. We usually look at like ROAS, like on day 3, day 7, and that's the max so far.
And what's the payback period? What's the payback period that you have in place? Like what's the
probably 30 to 60 days. And so, yeah, so even then, but what's really interesting for us, like as UA managers, is like, how do you see the actions? Like our goal is definitely to keep a campaign or to keep a game at the highest volume possible for the longest time possible. And then it's like really important for us to understand your action and the impact of your action on your campaigns. So like right now, we're realizing that most tools does not give us this kind of a granularity and does not have this kind of action-based results. So that's why we're like very dedicated in developing our own tools with like these action-driven kind of metrics, and then also and alert systems on telling us when.
That's a big challenge. Are you talking about, like, for instance, you make a change to a campaign and then you need to wait for like a hoarded period in order to see like what this change has done, and then sometimes you make a minor change and then you're gonna see this in 30 days and you need to have like some indicator that something went wrong because of an action that you actually put in place 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that's a big challenge indeed.
Yeah, and then the thing is, we already have a system in place that's running for like a long time now. And it's really easy. It saves so much time because at some point you, as a UA manager, you look at like 1,000 campaigns, right? And the thing is, you don't have time to actually go through any of them in your week. So, but the thing is, with the alert system in place, on any given day, we have like 20, 30 campaigns to look at, and then everything goes smoothly. So that's a really cool thing.
Clary, I think that the fact that you're building the solution because you kind of monitor the market and there is nothing that works for you in terms of like action tracking, I think this is a big shout out to the market. So if you're a solution provider and you work in this niche, maybe there is a call that you need to take and to test another approach. And I think this is actually kind of the challenge that needs to be addressed by the service companies to realize that the way companies, even of the same size and marketing scale, do user acquisition can be very different. And I think one of the concerns that I had at this stage that it's impossible to create a universal solution, because even if you embed in the solution the best market practices, you want the tool to be the natural part of the processes, not the artificial one that team try to run away from because it's not convenient and so on. And talking about the first point Clary mentioned, so of course, if we have this needs mismatch, we need to build internally. And that's funny that you were surprised that not everybody building their own solution, but at least my feeling is that most of the companies, at least every second company, is trying to build their own solution. But it doesn't mean that in the end they build it and succeeded or the solution is implemented. And my guess is that companies are often underestimating the investments needed to be made into the solution, so it would be the proper one, not just a model, not something.
I can agree more.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not about just building something. You want it to work at the full efficiency, at the full scale. You want it to be connected with other processes. For example, especially if we talk about testing tools, or if we talk about auto posting for campaigns. Of course, you would like it to be connected with your creative library. You would like to have some creative analytics so you can do the whole funnel. So I think it's good to start, it's good to consider, and to address the initial question by Maria. I would say that the best, both in terms of tools and in terms of services, is not to choose one path, but to try both. So in my opinion, you need to use both internal, build internal growth capacity, but also discover external services. And the question is what's going to be the proportion and the proportion and focus depending on the stage of your development. When you're just new to the market, you can do as many tests, but the market is so competitive, you're likely to use if you do not embed some established practice. And then, of course, when you have at least some smooth processes within user acquisition, you can experiment more, and you can either delegate it to your agency partner or you can do it yourself. At some point, you're going to definitely have more insights at the agency because of this focus on your games, particularly your mechanics. So your creatives and your performance must be winning. But at some stage, the market will change dramatically. And again, your partner from the agency will know more and better. So my solution, my suggestion here would be to use both and then just switch between the option that works better and take the best knowledge of the market and embed also your personal perspective of your games.
Yeah. And then for anyone who's interested or who's listening to this right now, we actually build everything with no engineer, and then with only no-code tools. Basically, it's the UA managers who build everything. So if anyone's interested, you can come talk to me after the panel.
Yeah,
for
we're
that.
a little bit. Yeah, that's impressive. No code. But we're like Clary. We're early funnel as well. We actually look at day one ROAS. And then the mediations are trying to get us to use day zero. I think day zero is a bit too early because then retention's not in there. When we use day zero, we end up getting higher ROAS, but then retention is lower, and we care a lot about retention and brand and all of that. So we use day one ROAS. We do build our own tools, but those tools are more on the game side because game designers, they love to change the whole game and they like to redesign huge parts of it. So there's a lot more surprises on the game side than on the UA campaigns. I think our UA managers are very conservative when they change campaigns. When things are working. When things aren't working, then there's probably not a lot of prior data to compare and see if it's any different anyway. And then tools wise, the only tool we use on the UA side is called Tenjin. There are MMP, they're amazing, and they have all the ad revenue in there, all the LTV in there, and all the ROAS information all in one dashboard, like the default dashboard. So huge props to them. We've used them for 6-7+ years. And then consultant wise, we also only use one, and we use NativeX. They're really, really good at TikTok, and so we learn a lot of our TikTok from them. I do think at the end of the day, like you want to do both. You want to use external plus internal, and then also in terms of consultants, external and internal. I think they're for different purposes. I think external, it's always good to learn like industry best practices and how how it's done elsewhere, and like what are the sort of best practices and all of that. But at the end of the day, like I think scaling, it's still up to yourself, because each game is still very different. So for example, like while we do work with NativeX and they teach us a lot of things, at the end of the day, like sort of our campaigns are scaling much larger, because at the end of the day, like we know our game the best. And so we run campaigns with them, we run campaigns ourselves, but ours tend to do larger scale over time, because we know our games better and we create our own creatives. So yeah, so it's not like if you use external tools, use external consultants, you'll succeed. Like it's far from that, from our experience. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next question. We do have a lot of good, interesting topics here to talk about today, and I want to say talk about the creators themselves and when they are making the actual campaigns. Like I think Clary mentioned like number 30 campaigns running at some point. There's a lot of content to crunch out there, and like, are there any sort of tools and generation, some AI or some sort of automation, or what are your tips and tricks that you are using to be more efficient when you're making more ad creatives?
I'm gonna jump in this post. I think we touched upon this topic. So basically, the idea would be not only to monitor the creatives from Sensor Tower. I assume most folks here are using Sensor Tower, and I'm just wondering, are you using something else outside the Sensor Tower? So we won't be like, the Sensor Tower advertisement moment. Have you tried other tools? Do you find Social Peta, for example?
Data UI.
Yes. So what else on your side? What are the platform for competitors' intelligence you're using?
So basically, what we think, since our market, like even app market, even though we are we're focusing also on the gaming audiences, because we need to be driving gaming audiences to our app to engage with the games that we are promoting. But at the same time, we are competing with other similar apps. And what we started to invest heavily in is ASO. So, and I think the most useful tool so far that I've been using a lot, except for the MMP, the competitive landscape analysis tools like Sensor Tower and Data UI. I've been using AppTweak a lot, so that actually helps us understand the competitive landscape in terms of ASO, but at the same time it gives some solid data when it comes to app analytics, competitive landscape. I also like AppMagic because it's like super simple. The UX UI is like easy, and so those are the biggest ones. But I think one of the best tools ever that I think was one of our like best decisions ever, and a lot of product and marketing companies make this mistake a lot because they think that product and marketing, everybody understands that those things are very much correlated, but some companies, they just don't understand the real significance of product and marketing working together. And for us, it's basically one entity. And what this means is that we built a system of data tracking and marketing tracking, performance marketing tracking, and the user funnel into one single system, which is called like Mixpanel. We use Mixpanel in order to understand all the deep analytics of our user behavior correlated by user channel. So we can see what any single source or any single particular user is doing within the context of our application, where they click, what impression they make, and what kind of game, like how long they retain. And we can see the difference in terms of data based on different channels of traffic that this particular user came from. So we basically built product and marketing into one single entity. And Mixpanel helped us a lot, but it was quite a challenge to. I'm gonna talk a little tech here, but it was quite a challenge to really put all the events into one basket and drive them all to one platform, because we have a web platform and we have Android app as well. And there's going to be a big chunk of cross-platform users. And eventually, it's a little hard to understand the correlation between the behavior of those users, because sometimes they're going to be using your web platform, sometimes they're going to be using your Android app. So it's a little hard sometimes.
Okay, we have a question from the
I said
audience.
mixed panel.
Yes,
it's mixed panel.
Perfect. And saying like those approach to data analytics and kind of figuring out about the insights you can embed in a better way, Alexander, I'm just wondering, I think we're moving a bit to the topic of targeting.
Yeah.
That's a bit better.
We're going to actually move into targeting now. Thank you so much, Olga, for bringing that one up. And I'm going to extend the first question to Valentina from Gamelight. The question is here, do you use any sort of AI automation for your targeting? And if so, can you, tell us a little bit how?
It's funny you asked it, because there is quite some buzz about Gamelight and targeting right now, because the thing is that I believe that the goal of every app developer, of every game, of any app which is on the market, is just to get the user which is right. And that's where targeting is coming to play. We're all talking about that. So some companies are selecting like users based like Tinder. I want to have only girls. I want to have 18 plus. Somebody is going for the male audience, depends. And the thing is that at the end of the day, there is only one goal for targeting. We want to have the best retention rate, we want to have the highest ROAS, and as soon as possible. So for us, it's like we built in-house our solution for targeting. As I already mentioned before, it's like we have a rewarded platform, we have our audience, we have our own apps, and we are presenting apps of our clients, games of our clients, which are getting installed via us. What makes us different is that we are presenting maximum 4 apps at a time to a user. And the thing is that we need to be like very careful with targeting, like that is actually reaching the best user possible. So we built our own AI tool, AI algorithms. Basically how it works, like we are getting all the data from our users. They're giving their consent when they're installing our app, that we are collecting all the points from their behavior, their demographics, their app data usage. We know exactly where this person is, how he is doing, how he's behaving within the apps. So built on that, our AI is analyzing all this vast amount of data, and it makes a suggestion for the game, which will be interesting only for this particular user. So that's a very complicated kind of like technology behind, which was built in-house, but it's completely self-optimizing. It's learning on its own mistakes. And at the same time, it's like it needs zero human intervention. Why? Because it's actually like you will never be able to analyze that much data points by a human. It's like that's actually like kind of like an ongoing real-time, the tool to select the best user possible. That's something that we see as well, that the ROAS are going up. We get a lot of profit on our side, which is good as a company. And at the same time, clients are sticking with us and they're seeing the best results possible. So that's a little bit about our tool. I know that there are quite some solutions on the market, which will be, I'm curious to listen as well from our audience, how they are doing that, what kind of targeting they're using. So yeah, that's a bit about us. So for you, for example, Alexander, what is your targeting right now?
So basically, it really depends whether we're talking about like when we are driving users to our platform or when we're driving users to our advertisers.
Others.
So if to advertisers.
To advertisers.
So here we have a similar system, but at the same time, it's a little different because we didn't have to build like an AI algorithm. Because we believe that, and we also like our company stage would not allow this like financially, and also when it comes to resources. But there's just a few data touch points that allow us to recommend games based on demographics, user behavior, usage data. So, and the data collection that we have in place is divided into 2 different parts. The first one is the the survey data. So we ask users like their demographics, we ask users about their favorite games, and based on that, we make an initial recommendation of games to the new user that comes onto our platform. And then, but we believe is that whenever you ask users something, it's your fault. It's your problem as a product manager that you ask them that, because you potentially inflict a churn on the user. Like you make your initial user funnel, your user onboarding a little different, a little hard, I just want to say. And what we believe, right, is after our first recommendation of games and apps that we make to the user, we collect the data based on their behavior, what kind of apps they're looking into, what kind of games they click on, and when they start making their net purchases. And their preferences can change a lot. So we built an algorithm which does not evolve like artificial intelligence, but it revolves around their usage and game categories that they play, how much they make purchases, and the algorithm always updates itself. So we always recommend new games, because sometimes gamers, and we have like app enthusiasts, we have gamers, and sometimes app enthusiasts or just people, they don't really realize that they are gamers in the first place. They're going to check out a couple of casual games, mastery games, hyper casual games, and they're gonna just fall in love with those. And from this point on, if you had not asked this question in the first place about the user preference, if you use only the data that you collected throughout your survey and you do not have any usage data, you're going to be always recommending wrong content to this particular user. You need to make sure that their preferences always change based on their behavior with like throughout the user funnel and their like lifetime user funnel. So we collect user data. We recommend games and apps based on their usage, demographic, etc. But we make sure that it always updates, because sometimes users, they don't really know what they like, and we just figure it out for them.
Okay, so it's a kind of like a predictive model that you have for this.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, yeah, for us, it's kind of like a prediction, because you also like create the personas, but at the same time, you always have like first, like we're always getting from our clients, which is most important, like the retention and ROAS. And it's kind of like we're putting all the data in, AI is making the suggestion to optimize and overcome like the ROAS and retention for the clients, like getting this. We're trying to stay our account managers as far away from the optimization as possible.
But you know, the biggest problem here is that sometimes you would not be, I mean, you would be recommending the best game to the best user possible that you have within your platform. But sometimes it's not possible that you're going to be just so much boosting ROAS of your game advertisers just because this particular user, they don't have like a particular resource to spend. So what I was trying to say is, you would be recommending a game to a user that is likely to play this game, but this user by their financial means is not it's not capable of spending much in their in-app purchases. So you just cannot get out of like more that this particular user can afford. So some like it's 50% it's recommendation, but 50% is what your audience is and where you get this audience from. Because if this is a game whale, you need to make sure that you are recommending the right game. But if it's a user that basically cannot even spend $5 and this user is not of value to our gaming friends, right?
Yeah, that's really depends. Like that's why we really like the AI concept. Why? It's like of the collection data and of their of the data points that we are getting there, is that for us it's very important to get the app data usage, because it's like when they're getting our game installed, our app installed, we are getting the permission from them to track everything what's going on the phone. So we see like how they're using other apps, if they're spending with this, how much time they spend with this, what kind of apps they're using. So it's kind of like making the suggestion about the user, because it's like sometimes like with some kind of algorithms, when they are not like, when they're just algorithms, the thing is that you are not able, like you can make a prediction based on the amount of verticals this exact user is playing. The problem is that you never know, like if they do have money. But the thing is that when you're getting the app data usage, that works like it works great on our side. But yeah, it's That's why there are so many different channels working differently.
I think your algorithm just makes it great because the thing is, like initially, the biggest challenge is getting a valuable user. But
Yes.
like when you're doing a great job is by retaining this user, because it's very hard to get it, and it's very expensive to get a great user, especially for IAP-based games. And but it's even harder to retain and re-engage this user as well.
Exactly. It's especially like very difficult for saturated games, you know, it's like that existed on the market for a
Yeah.
really long time.
Like Coin Master, like Dice Dreams and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here is like where the ROAS come into play, and that's where the CPI is quite high and the ROAS are quite high as well. So yeah.
It also depends on the monetization model of this particular game, because sometimes we see some upcoming titles.
My dear friend, this is very, very intriguing, very, very interesting. You guys are going down a little bit of a rabbit hole right now, and everyone else is kind of observing. And we do have, our time is ticking. So I do want to throw out the next question. And there was someone who mentioned the word whale in there. Let's talk about targeting these big spenders. How do you find those specifically? Do you have any special tricks up your sleeves, any strategies?
Great question.
Yes. I'm feeling like we spoke so much already. So
yeah, that's why I'm just gonna keep quiet for now.
yeah. So if we speak about the big whales, that's actually like something that we mentioned already with Alexander, is like knowing the roles, trying to find the user for them, which is actually like because they touched everyone in the market, and probably somebody here is going to speak about retargeting right now as well. But for us, it's basically like finding, setting the goals for ROAS for them and the retention rates, and after that, running the campaign to get the most valuable user, even despite that it's going to cost quite some. So that's basically it. But maybe somebody here in the audience is going to speak about retargeting as well. That's going to be the next point. So I'm taking the ball to push it here.
Clary, I mean, you have a part of really IAP focused games as well. So I was just wondering if you have any special technique or mechanic that allows you to get higher paying audiences in the first place.
I think in terms of like special techniques and stuff, it's more like finding best fit campaign per se. For us, we're not really doing a lot of retargeting, unfortunately. However, like unlike what CK said about like the campaign types, even I'm actually a little bit surprised that you're still like 99% based on CPI campaigns, because for us, like CPI campaigns are like very small portion. Most of all, we're working with like ROAS campaigns. And then like now more and more like in-app purchase campaigns are becoming a bigger focus. And the thing is, we really see some good results with these type of campaigns. And then even though sometimes the CPI could cost like 5 to 10 times that of CPI or ROAS campaign, it is still incredibly profitable for us. So in terms of like the little secret, I would say definitely find a campaign that works for you, and then like optimize and experiment with campaigns, because seriously, we have this kind of experience like for the same game. There's like some country, some networks where IAP campaign works extremely well and doesn't work at all for some other games, other country of the same game, etc., etc. So there's a lot to be done here.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all testing, and every single game is different. Yeah, we're pretty much all CPI campaigns. We've tested like ROAS campaigns as well, but generally we don't like ROAS campaigns that much, because the idea is you're getting all of the highest quality users. So I'm like, okay, assuming the machine learning is really good, and assuming this year I get all my highest quality users, what am I going to get next year? Right? Like, lower quality, right? Because you've already finished your highest quality, and now your LTV goes down, and it so I guess it's akin to like sustainable, I don't know, fishing, like maybe since we're using the whale analogy anyway. So I think CPI campaigns are more sustainable long term, and
Hey,
if you want to,
that's
if you want to run a game for like 3-6 months, then ROAS campaign is fine.
yeah.
But we're looking to run a game for 10 years. And so yeah, so I think CPI campaigns we like much more.
Is it usually like that also on Google Ads, like flat
Yeah,
campaign? Because I mean, we hear a lot that CPI campaigns, they are not really scalable that much on
yeah.
Google,
So
and everybody's focusing on like fire-based ROAS events.
Yeah.
We've tested them, but it's still less than 1% of our install every month.
Really?
And there's a big incentive for all the ad networks to push you towards ROAS campaigns because they want you to bid, right? They want you to bid higher, and they want the auction to be really, really competitive. So they make higher CPMs, right? Like, so it's very clear why they want it. Again, on our side, like philosophically, we don't like it because we're trying to build games that last for a long time. And then also the other problem is like assuming your game like V1 out the gate is like bug free and like has all the best features, and your game designers will never ship even better retention mechanics and systems later. Then maybe ROAS campaign now and churn through your best users. But I don't think a lot of games are like that, especially hyper casual. We ship games in like 6 weeks, from zero game design, to all the way on the App Store. Like, do we really have the best like economy or the best progression tuned in 6 weeks? Like it takes us like years to tune like economies and progressions and A/B tests and all of that. So the game gets better over time. And then so as we run CPI campaigns, our bids increase over time for sure, but that's because our LTV increases over time because the game's improving over time. And those CPI campaigns are a lot more sustainable. Whereas like if you do ROAS campaigns, so you launch the game, you have a ROAS campaign, so your LTV is really high, but then your game design is sort of low, and then so your game design improves, but your campaign is going down, so you have like sort of an X shape. And so like it'll maybe last your ROAS campaign 6 more months when they have a better game design, but it's not going to be years, and you can't build like a brand like that. So then you have to build the next game, and that's what hyper casual is sort of stuck in the loop for. And so in our case, that's why we've been able to run Snake.io for many years, and every year we're growing. So
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. I think we've gone a little bit further from the kind of how do you find the whale topic right now, and we only have about 3 minutes left. So I have two more.
So we're not finding whales, but anyway.
I have two more questions. No one wanted to tell their strategies. This is my takeaway. It's fine. Two more questions, and I'm going to ask the panelists to be fairly short on these ones. The next question is on the data. Like when all these privacy laws and all these things are happening, how do you still get data? How do you compensate for that?
We build our analytics ways. Like in the same automation tool, we find ways to match like organic changes with like the actions that you make, and then that's how we analyze on iOS side.
I'm gonna get this one. I'm gonna be super short. We don't really care about third-party data. We use our first-party data. It's our own data. We collect this, we ask users, and we analyze their behavior within the context of our apps. So I'm invincible to Apple and Google. Our users trust us.
For us, it's the same thing. We get our first-party data from our users. The only thing that we always have before they actually install the app, straight ahead, they are driven into the settings to open the data for us, so we can track it.
Wow. Very good. Thanks for those very short answers. Everyone's saying we don't have these issues. Well, okay, that's good. I'm not sure what other people can really learn from it, but maybe the takeaway is just make sure you try to own or acquire the data yourself. The very last question then for this panel will be, from everything we've spoken about today and everything you've heard, what you've been saying, what others have been saying, and whatever you are doing, What do you think will be the key for successfully winning the battle of the users in 2024?
I would be super fast. I think this is the time of diversity, the time of testing. There is no specific answer as like good channel, bad channel. Those are the channels you need to discover. And then I think the only way to do it is to be flexible, to be open-minded, and then rely on a good analytics, the accurate data to make sure kind of the decisions you make are well powered up. And use, of course, the advantages of the AI. It can save you a lot of time and do the performance boost.
Yeah, for us, it's increasing rewarded video in your game, so your LTV goes up, and then you can bid higher. Yeah, I think that's the only way around it. I think interstitials are really annoying. Customers complain about that. Banner, it's kind of in your face all the time. RV seems to be like the best sort of ad experience that increases your LTV, and it's like a win-win for the customer. So we're super focused on RV this year and increasing.
Yeah, we're a bit on the same line, but with IAP campaigns. Sure.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Done! Thank you, panelists. This has been amazing. We were able to dive through a lot of deep topics, and I trust there's been a lot of takeaways from everyone in the audience. This has been a pleasure, and now we would like to continue on the AI track and throw you guys to the next panel of today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Ryan.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.